My name is Pak Jin-Woo, and I'm 27 years old. What I'm about to share with you isn't just a life story, it's a profound testimony that has fundamentally transformed not only my existence, but my entire understanding of who God is and the true measure of His power. 5 years ago, in what is perhaps the most hidden and perilous place on earth for a follower of Christ, 6 security officers pinned me against a wall. They'd found a Bible in my backpack and informed me I had precisely 24 hours to say goodbye to this world. They subjected me to endless beatings, depriving me of food and water. As dawn broke, they prepared for the execution. The commanding officer yelled, "Fire!" and the bullets should have torn through my body. What happened in that moment defies all human explanation. It's a reality for countless persecuted brothers and sisters, and every detail I share illustrates the Almighty's power manifested even in the darkest dungeons. Are you ready to hear how God can intervene when every bridge seems burned and all hope is lost? I pray this testimony touches your heart and strengthens you, wherever you are. It was January 2018. While the world watched the Winter Olympics in Pyongyang, South Korea, just a few dozen miles north, I was living a life where freedom was a lethal, alien concept. I speak of Pyongyang, North Korea's showpiece capital, a city whose flawless facade conceals a mechanism of total control that permeates every aspect of life. Here, possessing any religious literature is a capital crime, an act of treason punishable by death. I grew up here, indoctrinated from childhood to worship the leaders as deities. We were taught we were citizens of the greatest nation on earth, surrounded by a hostile, decadent world. But a quiet, persistent voice deep inside always hinted at a greater truth. It began one frigid December night. My ailing grandmother, on her deathbed, beckoned me closer. Her voice, barely a whisper, revealed a secret she'd guarded for decades. "Jin-Woo," she rasped, her sunken eyes fixed on mine. "There is only one true God, and His name is Jesus. Your grandfather died for his faith. I've kept this faith secret my entire life." Her words hit me like lightning. In an officially atheist state built on a cult of personality, hearing of another God was not just a shock, it was a revelation carrying a death sentence. 3 days later, she passed away, but her words ignited a fire in my heart. In the weeks that followed, driven by a mix of fear and irresistible curiosity, I began to search. I looked for answers, asking cautious, veiled questions, convinced that if my grandmother believed, others must, to hiding in the deep shadows of our society. I was born in 1996 in a small Pyongyang apartment. My childhood, like all North Korean children's, was drenched in ideology. We revered the leaders, their portraits in every room of every home. I was a model student, headed to Pyongyang University of Technology to become a computer engineer. My life was on its prescribed course, and I never questioned the system. But my grandmother's words shattered that illusion. The family secret she took to her grave opened a new history. My grandfather, whom I was told died in an industrial accident, was actually sent to a rape education camp for possessing Christian literature. He never returned. The seed of curiosity began to grow. Searching for religious information in a country where the internet is restricted to a government intranet, and where every conversation is monitored, was tantamount to suicide. During my 3rd year of university, I met Hyun. He noticed my tentative interest when I carefully broached the topic of religion. A few days later, Hyun invited me for a walk along the Taedong River, ensuring no eavesdroppers were near. He whispered, "My family, we believe in Jesus too. We meet in secret." He warned me immediately, "If you're caught, Jin-Woo, you'll lose everything. Labor camp, or worse. Your family will suffer with you. Are you sure you want to know more?" Looking at the river, I thought of my grandmother and my grandfather, who gave his life for this faith. I felt that inner voice confirm, "This is your path." A chilling fear mixed with burning resolve, and I nodded. "Yes, I want to know more." Hyun explained the rules of survival: never speak of it in public. Never carry anything written. Never meet twice in the same place. Never trust anyone not vouched for. It was a life of constant tension, but he promised it was also a life of deep inner peace. 2 weeks later, he led me to my first underground meeting. We entered a tiny room in a dilapidated apartment building on the city's outskirts. The windows were draped with thick blankets to block out every sliver of light and sound. Inside, 7 people sat in a circle. The group was led by an elderly woman, Mrs. O, who had spent 12 years in a labor camp for her faith but never renounced it. "Welcome, brother," she said softly. "Here, we are safe to speak of God's love." That night, I first heard lines from the Bible. They didn't have a physical book that was too dangerous. Members memorized entire chapters and shared them orally, a tradition to avoid being caught red-handed. Closing their eyes, they recited, passing verses one to another. They read John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." In a nation taught to die for its leaders, hearing of a God who gave his own Son for us was a revolutionary, life-altering truth. A few months later, in April 2017, Mrs. Owen trusted me with something incredible. After a meeting, she retrieved a bundle wrapped in plastic and cloth from a crack in the wall. "Jin-Woo," she said, her eyes shining, "you've proven your commitment. I believe you are ready for this." She unveiled it, a tiny, black-covered Korean New Testament, no taller than 4 inches, with incredibly thin, almost transparent pages. It was the most dangerous and precious object I had ever held. It had been smuggled across the Chinese border. We had only 3 copies for our whole group. We rotated them, keeping them in a different location each week. "If you are caught with this," Mrs. O warned, looking me straight in the eye, "it means a labor camp or execution. Do you accept the risk?" I did. I hid the little New Testament in a secret compartment at the bottom of my backpack. That night, under my blanket, with the dim glow of a tiny flashlight, I read the Gospel of Matthew for the first time. Every word was like a drink of pure water in the desert. My growing faith gave me an internal peace that was in stark contrast to the sticky, constant fear we lived in. I learned the stories of others, Uncle Kim, who lost his wife to the Camps Yuna, whose father was executed for spreading literature. They taught me forgiveness, hope, and prudence. Everything changed on January 14, 2018. It was a cold, gray Monday. The New Testament had been in my possession for 2 days. On my way to class, an unscheduled inspection was underway at the campus entrance. Officers from the Ministry of State Security Bowibu were searching bags with terrifying thoroughness. My heart pounded like a trapped bird. As my turn came, an officer took my backpack. He methodically searched textbooks and pens, and I started to feel relief. Then, his fingers froze, finding a slight bulge where the New Testament was hidden. "What is this?" he demanded, pressing the spot. I tried to lie, claiming it was a broken seam, but he drew a knife and slit the lining. The small, black New Testament tumbled onto the frozen ground. Time stopped. The officer picked up the book, his eyes widening with a mix of surprise and triumph. "Religious literature," he bellowed. "We have a traitor to the regime here." Within seconds, I was surrounded, my hands wrenched behind my back, cold handcuffs clicking into place. I was dragged to a black SUV, the last thing I saw being the terrified faces of my fellow students. At the interrogation room, the officer placed the Bible on the table. "You know the penalty for possessing foreign religious literature?" he asked. I looked down, knowing the charge was treason against the state, punishable by death. "Who gave it to you? Who else is involved?" I faced the hardest decision of my life: betray my brothers and sisters to save myself, or stand alone. I remembered Jesus' words, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it." A sense of inexplicable peace settled over me. "I found it myself," I said. "It was hidden in an old book I bought at the market. No one else is involved." The ensuing 3 days were a brutal cycle of beatings, sleep deprivation, and psychological torture. They threatened my death, then offered mercy if I would cooperate. I held fast, clinging to the verses I had memorized. "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." On the 4th day, I was brought before a higher-ranking officer. He was stern, decorated with medals. "Pak Jin-Woo," he stated emotionlessly, "you have been found guilty of treason and betrayal of our beloved leaders for possessing foreign, subversive religious literature. The sentence is execution by firing squad. It will be carried out tomorrow at dawn." There was no trial, only a sentence passed in a cold office. "Do you have anything to say?" he asked. I looked up, my voice surprisingly steady. "Only that I do not regret knowing Jesus," he sneered. "Tomorrow, we will see if your Jesus comes to save you." I was returned to my cell for my final night, enveloped by a strange, supernatural peace. I prayed not for deliverance, but for the strength to face what was coming with dignity and faith. Before dawn, they blindfolded me and led me out. When the blindfold was removed, I stood before the bullet-scarred concrete execution wall. 10 meters away, 6 young soldiers stood in line with their rifles. The commanding officer read the sentence. "Any last words?" he asked. "Yes," I replied firmly. "I want to say that I forgive everyone here, just as Jesus forgave those who executed him. And I pray that one day you will know the love of God as I have." The officer nodded to the platoon commander. "Platoon, take arms." The metal clang of the rifles being loaded echoed in the quiet courtyard. "Aim." 6 dark muzzles pointed at my chest. I closed my eyes, mentally reciting the Lord's Prayer. "Fire." I heard the simultaneous click of 6 triggers being pulled. And then, nothing. No shots. No impact. Just a profound silence, broken by confused murmurs. I opened my eyes. The soldiers were staring at their rifles in confusion, clicking the triggers again and again. Click, click, click. The weapons would not fire. The commander, visibly shaken, grabbed a rifle, checked the mechanism, pointed it at me himself, and pulled the trigger. Click. Silence. In a frenzy, he ordered a weapons change. 6 more rifles were brought out, checked, and loaded. Aim. Fire. Again, 6 simultaneous clicks and in deafening silence. All 12 perfectly functioning military rifles had misfired. It was astronomically impossible. The soldiers' eyes were filled with a deep, superstitious terror. 20 minutes later, a senior officer approached me, accompanied by an older, more powerful-looking man. They spoke in hushed tones, glancing at me. Finally, the older man addressed me. "Pak Jin-Woo, it seems today is not your day to die. Your sentence has been commuted. Instead of execution, you will be sent to Camp 15 for labor re-education." As I was led away, I heard the guards whispering. The commander said he's never seen anything like it. When heaven protects someone, it is best not to challenge it. In that moment, I understood. This was no technical failure. It was a divine intervention so blatant that even the regime's servants could not ignore it. God had silenced the guns, just as he had shut the mouths of the lions for Daniel. I promised him that if I survived, I would tell the world what he had done.